talk about ecological niche, we generally tend to think a lot about animals. From in vitro study of the thermal niche in water fleas to understanding species-specific fecal preferences of the dung beetle, every species has its respective niche, and this concept is essential to all life on Earth. Not only does a species' ecological niche help them to exist in their environment, but to thrive and contribute to ecosystemic balance as well. That being said, we tend to overlook humanity's own specific ecological niche, yet understanding it is equally as important as understanding the concept in relation to animals. To narrow our scope, let's bring our attention to climate change. We are now in an era where we are beginning to see huge climatic shifts and experience some of the negative effects of anthropogenic activity on the environment, from intensifying tropical storms and hurricanes to major oil spills causing severe ecological damage. But in what other ways will climate change really affect the human climate niche, in ways that we can't necessarily feel the effects of right now? One way that we can find an answer to this question is by turning to the news and media. For example, journalist Doyle Rice of the popular news outlet USA Today writes this article, informing that by the year 2070, a great majority of the human population will live in areas of extreme heat. In his report, Rice stipulates that according to a primary research article in Environmental Sciences, humanity's niche by the year 2070 will reach an average yearly temperature of about 52 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit, which will disrupt the climatic niche that has harbored thriving human populations for nearly 6,000 years. Additionally, the journalist writes that greenhouse gas emissions will rapidly increase global temperatures, and that without climate mitigation from global legislators, extreme temperatures of around 84.2 degrees Fahrenheit will expand to about 19% of the Earth's surface area, as opposed to the current 0.8%, all projected to happen within the next 50 years. With this, large parts of Africa, South America, the Middle East, and other geographical locations will be near uninhabitable, and around 1 billion people will be left out of the climatic niche. But how accurate is this report really? When looking at the primary research article, we can find that much of the information found in the report done by USA Today is consistent with the research group's findings. However, the article fails to mention some imperative points of the research. In addition to the findings that had already been mentioned in the news article, the research paper mentions that global warming will affect more than just the ecosystem, and will affect human livelihoods, food security, water supply, and even economic growth. Additionally, although a difficult task to accurately predict, the research poses several possible future scenarios that regard how the deterioration of conditions in some regions and improvement in others could lead to mass migrations of billions of people within the next 50 years. That is, if the global population stays distributed relative to temperature based on their historical and current relationships. The implications from these models suggest major logistical, political, and socioeconomic tensions that will challenge global nations. We can also learn more about this aspect through this graph. Here, we see the current state of the human climatic niche, ranging from areas of high to low suitability. In the year 2070, we see a major shift in the climatic niche, with major parts of Africa, South America, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Australia largely affected. But this graph implies more than just increasing global temperatures in certain regions of the world. This niche shift will also have major impacts and limitations on crop and livestock production. And with an expected global population of 9.4 billion by the year 2070, these agricultural detriments will pose huge problems to population sustainability. But perhaps the most interesting aspect of the group's results is how these major climate events will have the most impact on impoverished global communities and economies, a crucial detail that the news article fails to mention. Seeing as these geographical areas will be subject to the intense severity of global warming, it is also too important to note that they are home to some of the poorest nations in the global economy, where adaptive capacity and technological advancement are low and lack modernity. These climate scenarios pose complex humanitarian challenges, and socioeconomic and political inequalities are bound to become more apparent as we approach the scenarios outlined in the business as usual models. With these nuanced differences found between the media and research article, it raises several questions as to how accurately the media reports important scientific findings. The news article is accurate in its information. However, it leaves out crucial details that reveal deep-rooted societal and systemic problems. Of course, this could be to present a more palatable and coherent story that ultimately appeals to a larger audience. But when we think about humanity as a whole, it is important for us to accurately represent the underrepresented. In the context of the human niche, the repercussions over environmental responsibility won't affect everyone the same. In fact, economies that produce the most greenhouse emissions and contribute the most to global warming, such as China, the US, and Europe, will be affected least in comparison to nations that contribute low levels of greenhouse emissions to global warming. Living in such a fast-paced consumer society, It's easy to disregard the nuances of information that we come across in the media and simply take things as they come. However, in the context of climate change, it is important that we look beyond the superficial message and instead take time to truly dissect, reflect, and act. All of our futures depend on the actions we take today.